Hi, this is John Delancey, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 160 of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, Optimus Solo, and joining me for today's special record is Hard Candy Mandy.
Hey guys.
Hey girls. Girl.
What?
Move your vault, Dan. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. And Fridley Sen.
Hi.
We're all here and accounted for, and we're ready to celebrate 2017, because that's what we do this time of year. So this is our first of our special episodes where we are going to be giving you our movie awards. If you didn't listen last year, how we kind of do this is each one of us independently comes up with our own categories, our own awards, trophies, recognition that we want to give. And when it's our turn to reveal an award, it can be a number of different things. It could be just a winner. It could be a winner and a runner-up. It could be a top 3 or maybe 4 or 5, whatever the people came up with. So we just kind of bounce back and forth between all of us until we're out of awards to give. Gives us a chance to highlight a bunch of the different movies from 2017 that we either enjoyed or maybe didn't enjoy. And leads up nicely to next week's episode, in which we will give you our actual favorite films of 2017. Before we get into the actual list, Dan, anything that you want to preface this with, or anything I didn't say as far as business?
For my personal award, what I try to do is I specifically try to highlight movies that I won't be talking about next week for our top 10. So if you were wondering why I don't bring up certain movies this week, but next week, that was purposeful. And also with some of the end of the year blogs that we're working on or constructing, similar, a lot of best performances, things of that nature. A lot of those are going to be covered in those blogs. So for my awards, I'll also try to stick away from doubling up on that end. So you had to be a little bit more creative. So it might be a little weirder, but should make it more fun.
Yeah, and so far the also thing that I wanted to bring up too is that none of us know the actual awards, like the actual movies or people or moments that are going to be chosen by them. We just went over the categories that we all have, so that's all we know is the categories that people have come up with. And I will tell you guys are in for a treat because the other Cinema Geeks came up with some very creative categories that I wish I was smart enough to come up with. But like Dan said, we will be doing a couple of blogs that we do every year, which we give out our genre awards, some technical and art awards. We have what else do we do, Dan? We have miscellaneous awards where we can kind of recognize different things like trailers and movie posters and some of that type of stuff. And usually we'll put together
best genres, best art, and then the art and technical awards, cinematography, things of that nature, special effects, and then best genres, so best action film, comedy. So for those, since we're doing that article, I didn't include those for my awards.
Yeah, and then sometimes we do, if we have time, we'll put together a best movie moments too. That one takes a little bit more time though, so no promises there. Matt or Amanda, anything you want to get off as far as caveats or anything before you do your before we start revealing things?
I also didn't want to give too much away for my top 10, so I steered away from pointing out too much on a few movies.
All right.
Oh,
go ahead, Matt.
I only saw about a dozen movies in theaters this year, so I've got a very small list of things.
Still fun and creative either way. So we're going to start with one that most of us had in common here. Also, I guess a way to start with a negative and hopefully turn positive somewhere along the record and then on a good note. But we're going to start with most disappointing film or biggest letdown. Amanda, do you want to start?
Oh, me? What?
Ladies first.
I have a top 4 here.
Top 4 biggest letdowns. Let's hear it.
Biggest letdowns, top 4 here. Number 1. Should I start with the most? Or?
No, start with number 4.
Okay, number 4.
I don't want to build up anything.
I gotta build it up, the tension. Super recent watch for me, and that's The Shape of Water. I dug Kevin's face. I liked how the movie looked. I thought it was a kind of a cool concept, but I didn't buy the relationship. It didn't work for me. The romantic relationship. So I just needed a little bit something more for that to me to super like it. Kevin, what's wrong with you?
I'm in shock.
Oh my
Continue.
gosh. Number 3 is Rough Night. I wanted more shenanigans out of this, and I didn't get it. So, love the players. Still a letdown.
Didn't love the game.
Didn't love the game here. Nope. Number 2 is It Comes at Night. Wasn't scary. Was not scary.
What's going on here?
He's losing his mind. I was excited for Joel Edgerton to be in like a horror movie, and there was a lot of tension, but it wasn't scary for me. It was not what I thought it was gonna be, so let down by that. And Kevin, stop it. My number 1 biggest letdown was A Cure for Wellness. I was pretty stoked for that, and it went a direction I didn't want it to go.
So we might have some similarities in our categories, but trust me, there's not going to be any similarities in the picks.
Kevin.
But that's
I think Kevin's biggest letdown of this year might be Amanda's letdown list.
I'm just a little bit in shock. I'm going to go with mine next then, since I'm the one making the big deal about it, I guess. So I have a list of 5 biggest letdowns for me, and I guess I don't have them in a specific order, but I'll try to make one up as I go here. For my number 5, I'm going to go with The Beguiled. You like Sofia Coppola for the most part, and have liked at least a few of the films that she's done, and I thought based on the premise and the cast that I was going to dig this one, but it let me down, especially towards the latter, I guess the last act or the final third, so let down there. Lost City of Z, I think I had this on my most anticipated list like 2 years in a row, and that was a mistake because that was one of the most painful theater experiences I think I had this year, as far as just being completely bored out of my mind. And then the ceiling collapsed in our theater, so that didn't help to add the overall enjoyment of the film. After that, I would say Dark Tower was a pretty big letdown from a Stephen King adaptation. Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey. Didn't work real well there. And then I guess my top 2 would be All Eyes on Me. I really thought they were going to somehow be able to capture the same type of magic that we got out of Straight Outta Compton, and they did not even come close. That was a slog of a film. And my number 1 film, it was in my most anticipated top 10, and this is basically how I went off of this. I tried to pick things that were in my like top 10, 20, 30 most anticipated films, and this one was very high. I'm going to put Okja as my most disappointing film. I wanted to be on board with it, and I liked parts of it, but overall it did not wow me as much as I was hoping for. So that's my 5. Amanda, what do you think? I gave you a hard time.
I agree with those.
Excellent. All right, Dan, I think you had some most disappointment as well.
I do. And I'll say Okja hurts me. I didn't love Okja, but I did enjoy it. And that was one of my most anticipated movies as well. But for my big disappointments, I also had Dark Tower. I remember way back when we started, like back when this was MR Weekly, like 4 names ago, and we were talking about Dark Tower, and it was like going to be this massive thing with multiple parts and like part TV series and movie, and finally the movie came out, and then it ended up being just kind of very forgettable, and this, considering all the pieces that were there, that was a pretty big letdown. Glad I got it from my library, and it cost me nothing. Also, The Mummy, which I wasn't expecting a lot from, but I thought there was some potential in this dark universe idea. I mean, the Universal Monsters were the first ever universe or movie cinematic universe, so I thought they could do something with it, and that movie is just not very good. A Ghost Story, which is, I know, is going to hurt a lot of people, and it's a movie that I greatly respect in a lot of ways, but I have a lot of issues with it, and I know when I say that, a lot of people are reactions because, oh, you don't like slower, very methodical films, or it's not that at all.
I hated it. It was so bad. I agree with you, Dan.
My issue with it is not its pacing, not like how long it's taking, or my issue was I felt it was very much reliant on you bringing in your own personal grief, and it didn't earn that, especially the pie sequence many people talk about. It within itself I don't have an issue with, but it felt very pandering and very, very manipulative to me. Like I always felt that I'm pretty sure that if you listen to the commentary track, it's going to just be the director patting himself on the back for the duration of it. It just felt like it was very purposeful in what it was trying to do, and it didn't earn that for me. Like you don't get to use grief as a reason why this moment should work when you haven't given me any other reasons behind that. I just felt that was I don't know.
Can I just say, kind of jump in there a little bit? When he says that he does not mind, a film that's taking its time or slower pacing or different things like that. If you guys have been listening to our show for the last, however many years we've been on, that's true. Like, that's not something that's going to turn Dan off from a film. So if he's saying it didn't work, it's definitely for those other reasons, and I can definitely agree with you. I didn't hate the film. I like some of the things that it was trying to say and some of the things that it made you feel. But I agree, there's a lot of moments there that it just didn't earn, and that pie sequence is terrible.
I mean, there's a lot of brilliance with that movie. I won't just go. Like, I think it's worth watching. If someone says I should watch it, I would say definitely. But it also, and I'll get to another category where maybe talk about that. Another disappointment for me was also a movie, Wilson. I'm a big fan of the graphic novel it's based off of. I thought Woody Harrelson would hit the role, and I love Skeleton Twins, which was the director's previous movie, and it ended up just being okay. It felt like a very much a watered down version of that story and that character. Probably my biggest disappointing movie is Downsizing. I loved Alexander Payne. I loved Nebraska. I thought like him doing a high concept would be kind of cool, but it's kind of a gigantic mess and it just doesn't work. It's not as funny. It's probably his worst movie. That was a really big surprise. He might be better just doing more personal stories rather than the high concept. And then another one, which it's a strange film, but it's Batman and Harley Quinn. And it's Bruce Timm coming back to doing his animation style, and it's an oddity. It's like kind of like him almost doing the classic campy, Adam West, but in the more the 90s animated style or more updated version of it. But there are just some scenes that seem really off to me. There's like a farting sequence in the Batmobile. There's really long musical numbers. It's like, I'm surprised he got it made because it does a lot of risky things, but I don't think all those risks pay off. I was just hoping that we'd get something like, akin to what he did in the past, and the point for him of trying something new, but I just think it didn't work as well as it could have. So
interesting on a couple of those. Yeah, Wilson, I think you're right. It was just an okay movie. People made it seem like it was awful. And I don't think it was like as bad as like the feedback came across film Twitter when that movie came out, but you're right, it was just okay. And Downsizing, the reviews and the I guess film Twitter's reaction to that one actually kept us away from it because we were going to go see that, and I think just the negative outcry from that kept me away. It wasn't one that was on my most anticipated, but it was one over the course of the year that I started to anticipate more and more, and then I was just like, oh, there's not a single good thing being said about that film, so maybe we'll have to pick a different film instead to go watch. So interesting that you're on board with that as well as it being a disappointment. Matt, anything that you wanted to highlight as far as your limited viewing that was maybe your biggest disappointment?
Yeah, like everyone had a huge list. I think the movie that disappointed me the most was Valerian. Like, I had high hopes for that one, and it ended up just being okay. It wasn't terrible, but as far as like hopes to enjoyment, it was the biggest disappointment. Also, not surprisingly, but Justice League wasn't a good movie either. Like, it wasn't terrible. It was probably better. Like, I don't want to say it was a disappointment because it was better than I expected. It just wasn't good.
The first barb has been thrown between Matt and Amanda for the day. We'll see how that goes as we move along. Amanda, what incredible category would you like to go with next?
Okay, so I could jump into a couple categories that we kind of touched on.
Okay.
Maybe I'm gonna go with biggest meh. It was okay.
Okay.
I got a top 4 here, and the reason I'm gonna start with this is because my number 4 is Valerian and A City of a Thousand Planets. I even rewatched this to see, like, did I like this? Did I not like this? And it's just kind of middle of the road. Like, it's entertaining, but not memorable, and not what I wanted out of it, for sure.
It's got, like, a couple cool moments and things like that.
Some cool visuals.
Yeah, like with the virtual reality and some of that, but overall I agree with you. It seemed like it didn't come all together.
No, it didn't at all. And number 3 was Ghost in the Shell. I think I liked it. It was good. but it wasn't. I wasn't as wowed by it as I thought I was gonna be. I think is maybe my expectations were a little too high. So it didn't, fall completely flat, but it was just like, man, okay, yeah.
So these are like
okay.
movies that you would put on like in the background as you were doing something else?
Yeah,
Okay.
most likely. Number 2, this might be, I don't know. I don't know how much flack I'm gonna get for this one, but Blade Runner 2049. Cool, but I wasn't like so entertained that my mind was blown.
DJ Valentine is not going to appreciate that comment.
Well, come at me, bro. Come at me, bro.
Continue.
And my number 1 is, I don't know, Murder on the Orient Express. I was really entertained. I thought it was a good story. There was some predictable stuff going on, and I don't know. I just wasn't like as blown away by it as I thought I was going to be.
Okay.
I think that's what this list is. It should have been thought I was going to be blown away, wasn't, not a bad movie, but still not as awesome as I thought. That's what this category is.
I like that. That's a much longer name, though.
I want to see that on a plaque.
Like that, instead of like a picture and then like a little words at the bottom, it would have to be all words and then a tiny little picture at the bottom. Dan, I think you had something maybe similar to that on your list, but slightly different.
Yeah, I had basically what I'm calling like rainy Saturday afternoon movies, which are like not or really a movie where they're not necessarily bad films, but they're ones that like are, you just want something just to kind of put on that is not going to engage you. You just need to kill time, or you're just looking for something that you can put on in while you're working on something or what have you. And for me, that one of those would be American Made, which is, it's a fine film. It's does nothing special. It's Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. It's pretty stylistic. It's got an interesting enough story, but it's not really. I feel like once you're done with it, it's kind of like fast. You're not hugely memorable. And then the other one would be Win It All, which is currently streaming on Netflix. It's a nice, sweet little story about, though I shouldn't say that because it's basically about this poker player and his gambling addiction, but then he ends up kind of getting this bag of money that he is in charge of, and he has to try to protect it in a way. I don't want to give anything away, but it's just it's very low key and not. There's high stakes drama, but it's never. I feel like it's ever approached that way. So it's relatively short too. So it's I liked it. I think it's a good movie, but it's not necessarily. It's like you don't want a movie that's going to make you think overly, or you just want just something to kind of like if you're not feeling well and you just need something to watch. My house right now is full of the flu, so it's like that type of thing where it's like there's a lot of distraction going on, so you don't necessarily need something hugely philosophical, just something kind of enjoyable enough.
I would like to see the statistics. I know they do this from time to time where they take a movie and they especially when they determine main leading roles versus supporting roles and whatnot. For American Made, I would like to know the percentage of shots and or scenes that Tom Cruise is not in, because I felt like he was in 99% of every moment on screen. So, but you're right. That fits the category pretty perfectly. Something that you can kind of keep track of with the side of your brain that you don't need to really focus on, but you can still kind of get the gist of it, and it's not a terrible film. So I like that one. I have one coming up here. I'm going to go with biggest movie badass, or biggest badass in the film. So this is going to kind of highlight maybe some of the action films or some of the stars that were just trying to kick ass and take names over the course of the year. So I have a list of 5 of them. So I'm going to start with number 5, kind of just snuck in because I wanted a 5th one, but I'm going to go with Michael Fassbender's character from Alien. I just think that there's interesting moments there towards the end, and he does prove that he's definitely one that you don't want to mess with. So I'll leave that somewhat vague. And then the other 4 are a little bit more obvious, probably. I'm going to go with The Rock in The Fate of the Furious, because The Rock is a badass in every movie, so why not at least highlight one of them? And I thought he does have some interesting sequences there as he's getting involved with Jason Statham's character, etc. So I thought that was he had some pretty badass moments. I'll go with Charlize Theron from Atomic Blonde. that was her being a pretty good badass, kicking a lot of butt and doing some things on stairwells and whatnot.
Also getting her own ass kicked.
Yeah, but she could take it and apparently not get knocked out very easily, so that was pretty badass.
I got way too many concussions for that.
I'm going to go with Vince Vaughn from Brawl in Cell Block 99. I don't know if I've ever seen some of the things that they pulled off in that movie as far as action sequences or shots. Like, Vince Vaughn is a big dude, but I don't think I've ever seen it showcased like it was in Brawl in Cell Block 99. So he did some things that were definitely, you had to almost turn away from the TV so that you didn't see the results of some of the physical stuff he's doing. I mean, the movie starts off with him beating the crap out of a vehicle. Like, I don't know how many people can do what he did with that vehicle, but come on, if we were talking about badasses, we have to highlight this one. Even if it's a sequel, he's still equally as a badass, and that's John Wick 2. John Wick from John Wick 2. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that happen in that movie, some involving pencils and other things that are very much the height of badassery. So that's my list for the biggest movie badasses of 2017. Matt, you got an award you want to give out?
So, since we're moving from bad to good, I think now would be the perfect time to do my favorite part of a bad movie. And I was sitting here trying to rack my brain, like, trying to figure out another, like, good one. Like, because there are 3 movies that I would say that I watched that aren't great movies, like, that aren't good movies. But only one moment sticks out to me, like, and that, or not even moment, but element, and like that's the 3 information broker brothers from Valerian. Like, I don't, like, when did that movie come out? Like 9 months ago, 10 months ago, and I'm still thinking about them. Like I read in the lead up to Star Wars, there was a book called Canto Bight. And there was a story about 3 brothers that were just going around gambling. And, like, those 3 guys reminded me of the 3 guys from Valerian so much. Like, I think I might be buying the Funko Pops of these guys. I loved those 3 guys so much and how they interacted. And, like, they were, like, that movie had some good stuff. I liked the VR market was a fun idea. But, like, those 3 stood out to me more than anything in that movie, in the long run, I guess.
Welcome to Big Market.
I think that's the interesting thing too when I've tried to do like the best scenes or the best movie moments before, over the course of a year. The fun part about that is there are a lot of films that might not have been as high on your list, they're not going to make your top 10 or top 20 or whatever, but could have just one good moment or one good scene. So it's kind of fun to kind of go back and think about those from movies that might not have been overly, thrilling or exciting or great or anything like that. So interesting pick there. I like it. Amanda, what do you want to go to next? Positive, negative, somewhere in between?
Okay, let's do best sci-fi concept.
Okay.
I've got a top 5 here.
Go for it.
My number 5 is Ghost in the Shell. I thought it was kind of a cool idea to how they like made her and her whole like the world that they built up with, that guy's eyes were replaced. I like that kind of thing. I like how, like, the biomechanical engineering, I thought it was pretty dope.
Okay.
I think they pulled it off too as far as like the look. They did that pretty well. Number 4, Colossal. I thought that was something unique. Didn't expect that. And it had a sci-fi element, but it dealt with a bunch more. I liked it. Let's do number 3 is Split. I liked the multiple personalities. I would have liked to have seen more of them, but I still thought the concept was awesome. And number 2 was Bright. I dug it.
The concept?
Yeah.
Or the execution?
The concept. We're talking about concept.
I know.
Here, okay? No, I liked that there was this whole world meshing, fairy tale and Lord of the Rings type stuff with modern day. I love that. And then my number 1 is a little Netflix movie, What Happened to Monday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice way to get that one in there.
Yes, sir.
You somewhat watched that without me, but
What do you mean?
What about that? I don't remember all of it. What was the concept in that one that you enjoyed the most?
I read this book in one of my English literature school books in high school, maybe middle school, and it was where in the future you can only have so many kids, and if not, then you're punished and fined and all this other stuff. Well, there was like
Also called China. Continue.
calm down. That this is a near future reality where, what are they, septuplets? Is that 7? Septuplets, but they could have only had one. So the Great Lakes that they went to make it seem like they were just one person was incredible.
All right. I like it. I like the idea for sci-fi concepts. That's good too, because again, it can highlight movies that were both good or bad, but the concept was good. So, Dan, any thoughts on those, or on to your next category?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of those concepts because, like, even Bright, I think there's like you could take that and make a better movie, or like I could see that being even like a great comic. Considering Mac Landis I think is probably a better comic book writer than he is a screen writer, but that's another story. So my next category are hidden gems / surprises. So these are movies that ended up surprising me, or films that I think are worth watching that I don't see many people talking about, no really awards consideration, or haven't really appeared on many top 10s that I've seen. Number one, these aren't really any specific order, but starting off is Donald Cried. It's from first-time director, and he also is the titular character, Chris Averdson, and it's a story about this guy who goes back to his hometown. He's like basically a stockbroker in New York, and he goes back to this kind of working class hometown, but in that process he loses his wallet, and then he kind of ends up having to rely on his former friend Donald, who is this kind of very huge character. Like he reminds me of like you took like a Tim and Eric character but made him genuine in a way, and he really what makes it worth watching. He's just such a unique character that is probably one of my favorites of the year, and this is actually streaming on Netflix if you are interested in watching it. The next is also from a first-time director that although she's done a lot of past short films and things. She was actually named as like an upcoming talent like almost a decade ago. Hope Dixon Leach, and the movie Leveling is like her first feature-length film, and actually stars an actress that Lord of the Rings fans will be aware of, Ellie Kendrick. And it's basically the story where she goes home after her brother dies, and she's working with her dad, and they are on this farm that's failing, and it's about family and communication and the problems that emerge when there's a lack of that communication amongst one another, and like all these different things start boiling up that they weren't really talking about. But it's a really moving story, and it was actually in my top 10 for quite some time until I watched some more films. But I thought it was really well directed. It really, it's a very super low budget. I was actually watching some behind the scenes things, and like it was so low budget they couldn't actually afford a real acting dog. They had to basically just get someone's dog from Craigslist to use in some scenes, which is like I didn't realize how much those acting dogs get paid, but they get paid bank. So there you go. This one isn't really a hidden gem because a lot of people are talking about it, but it is it to me was a huge surprise because we did like our most anticipated like top 100 list, and I didn't see this even come up, but it ended up being really an enjoyable film, and that's Brigsby Bear. Just a really unique story that is best experienced knowing as little as possible. So that's all I'll say. Crown Heights is another movie that's currently streaming on Amazon. It's your classic story of which is kind of sad to say, but a story of a person who goes to jail for a crime he didn't commit. It's based on real life. It's actually based upon a story that This American Life did, and it's really just well executed and very well acted. Not groundbreaking, but I think it's effective. And lastly, Hunter Gatherer, which is similar along those realms. It's about a man who comes home after being in jail, and he's trying to basically put his life back together, and the length he goes to, like he's trying to sell. It stars the actor who plays Bubbles in The Wire. So if you like him, he's a really underrated actor. He's wonderful in this, and I guess some people consider it a 2016 film. I don't know. It's hard to know the years of movies. It's just difficult, but that also is currently streaming on Netflix. But it's just a really well made independent movie about this guy and just all the different things he's trying to do to kind of stay afloat, and his weird relationship with his mom. It's really good though, so I would recommend all those.
All right, I like it. Especially one of them that you mentioned. I haven't seen the other ones. I've seen them, the titles that you put it out there that they were on Netflix, and I've been wanting to catch up with a couple of those, but I haven't had a chance to yet. I have a category here that kind of goes along the same lines of a couple of things that you mentioned, because a couple of those films that you were talking about were first-time directors, and so one of my categories is Best Directorial Debut. I want to put a caveat on that. It was not just in general best directorial debut. I was talking about more so somebody that was making the crossover from the in front of the camera to behind the camera. So I guess best directorial debut for an actor and or a writer or something of that nature. But now this time they were directing, and I had basically 5 of them here that I wanted to mention, or 4 of them, excuse me. Actually, I just have one that I'm going to give the winner to, because there was a bunch of them that were there, but I'm not vouching for their film. So people that made their directorial debut that were kind of crossing over this year, we had Andy Serkis do something with Breathe. We had Brie Larson with Glass Castle, Macon Blair. We had Aaron Sorkin flip to the director's chair for Molly's Game. But I think the most impressive thing that we saw as far as an actor or actress or writer that directed their first film this year would have to be Jordan Peele in Get Out. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that and kind of how impressive it was for his first film to be something that has been as well received as Get Out has been. So that would be my directorial debut award, or crossover director award, however you want to term that. So I should have thought that out a little bit more before I came up with it. Matt, what else do you want to give out?
All right. I think what I'll do is best new character added to a franchise, and like this isn't necessarily about how well it was acted, or how pivotal they are. This is more like the character that got added to a franchise, so it has to be new to this year, that I want to see more from.
Okay.
That like interested me personally. And I got 3 here. One, Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I think she's got an interesting power. I'm always huge into empathy and things like that. So, like Deanna Troi from Star Trek was one of my favorite characters. So, like, I want to see her more, and I want to know more about her as a character. X-23, I think, undeniably one of the best, one of the best child performances you'll like ever. And then interesting. Like, if they're done with that character story, I'm fine with that. But if there's any interest to make more, I would definitely watch that. And then finally, I don't know. I feel like I have to start defending before I even say it. Rose Tico from The Last Jedi might be like in my top 3 favorite Star Wars characters of all time, which is a crazy thing to say for a franchise that's over 40 years old that I've read like 100 or more books in. Like I resonated with that character in ways that I haven't resonated with characters in movies before. So like I want Rose in everything now. Like, she's like my favorite.
Excellent, good picks there. I agree with those. I think those were some highlights of those different films, and I would be a game for seeing more of those, all 3 of those. So, Amanda,
was that the chick that saved Finn? Yeah.
Yes.
You are correct.
Okay.
What else you got?
Oh man, let's do my biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise.
I got top 4.
Go for it.
My number 4 is Jungle with Harry Potter.
His name is Daniel Radcliffe.
Harry M.F. Potter. Okay.
He's not looking so good in that film, by the way.
No, it was not
that
an
he's
easy
ever
watch.
good looking, but
Yeah, he's kind of a creepy looking, cool little kid. You're a creepy adult. Just get past it.
especially when you're emaciated.
No. But it was like what the Lost City of Z should have been. So I think that's why it kind of resonated with me, because I saw Lost City of Z and it was shit. And I was like, this is fucking awful. And then Jungle comes along, which I have no expectations for, and then ended up enjoying. My number 3 is already something that's been mentioned, and that's Brigsby Bear. I didn't know what to expect from this either. I think the theme of this category for awards is I didn't have expectations for it, so then going in and enjoying it. Um, I think that it was a really cool concept, and as awkward and weird as it was, it worked. Everything worked. And my number 2 is The Big Sick, which I didn't want to see because the name sounds gross to me. Like, I just feel like it's just like a bunch of vomit. Like, that's. So I was like, man, I don't like hearing it, so I didn't really want to watch it. But ended up enjoying that one too. Okay, so my number 1 is one that we got to see in an advanced screening. So, I mean, free movies, right? Always gotta love those. And that's Gifted. I think it had so much heart. I loved the relationship. I loved how Chris Evans' character viewed how to deal with a gifted child. I think it was great, and it made me cry a lot. And I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of good emotional feelings.
All right, I like them all. Sounds good. Dan, what do you got next?
I'll go with a quick one, and it's what I'm calling best movie to watch in chunks. At this day and age, I often watch a lot of movies in chunks. I don't get to watch many from start to finish. So I thought I'd get one that actually kind of where it works and actually maybe make it better. And it's actually Blade of the Immortal, which is a Taishi Miike film. He's done a lot. He's done like 13 Assassins. This is like his 100th movie he's made. It's based off a manga. And the reason why it works in chunks is because the basic premise of it, it's kind of like an anime TV show in a way where like he kind of goes along the way, and it's about this character who's immortal because he was given these different worms that basically heal any wounds. And it's very similar to Logan in a way, because this girl comes to him to try to avenge her family that was murdered, and so he's going through this different cavalcade of characters, and it's basically he goes to one character and they talk and discuss and they fight, and then he goes to another character, so you basically can watch it in those chunks. Okay, here's first character level 1, second character level 2, so, and it ends up making it a little less repetitive because it's almost 3 hours long. So when you break it up like that, I think it's actually somewhat of a better experience, which I know is sacrilegious, but when you got to make time somehow. So if you're looking for a movie when you want to watch it in chunks, I feel like it's a good option. So that's Blade of the Immortal.
I think there is a lot more people that do have to watch films in chunks, so I think they'll appreciate some recommendations as far as that goes, being able to watch them in small chunks and get it all together. So, interesting pick there. I've not seen that one yet. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of something that Amanda was just talking about because it fits into one of the awards that I was going to give out, and I'm doing there was a lot of films that had, parental relationships and things like that. And I was also thinking back to something that we talked about last year with like the Dad from Morris of America. So Morris from America. So I was thinking about doing a best dad, worst dad list. I didn't feel like I was as capable of coming up with great choices on the mom side. So I kept it just to dads. I'm doing best dad and worst dad. So start with a negative here. For worst dad, I just had 3 possibilities. I didn't have a winner, but my 3 options there were Woody Harrelson's character from The Glass Castle, and then I had Mark Hamill's character from Brigsby Bear, and the character played by Colin Farrell from The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I just felt like maybe not Dad of the Year material for all 3 of those. Although I guess you could sort of make an argument that Colin Farrell is not necessarily a bad guy in that movie, but someone put in a bad situation. But I guess if I was picking a winner, it'd probably be Mark Hamill from Brigsby Bear, and I'm not going to say anything as far as why or what. As far as best dad, I have just 3 that kind of stood out for me. I have Kevin Costner's, or actually 4. Kevin Costner's character in Molly's Game. I thought he was a good dad that was there for and like. I thought the dad from, and I don't have the actor's name written down, so I'm not coming up with it off the top of my head, but the dad from Lady Bird, I thought he was a very level-headed, calm, yet intelligent father figure in that film. I have, the reason I was piggybacking off of Amanda, because I also have a shout out to Chris Evans from Gifted. I thought he was a good dad in what he was trying to do and kind of over the course of that film. And then can I cheat and just throw in a character from a movie I love? And let's say that maybe not from this film in certain respects, but Caesar's just a great dad in War for Planet of the Apes, or in the Planet of the Apes films in general. You might make an argument that War for Planet of the Apes doesn't highlight that as much, but he's a good dad. So those are my good dads and bad dads, but I'm sure I missed a slew of them because there were so many films that dealt with parental figures. So if you have other ideas that you think should be named in there, just let us know in the comment section on the website or tweet to us ones that I forgot about. Matt, another award that you would like to give out?
Yeah, this one's simple. Like my award for the best reveal, or best WTF moment, if you will. Like, and there were some good ones, like Hela's past, like, or Odin and Hela as characters, like, where it's like, hey, Thor, it hasn't been all like peace and love and stuff like before, back in the olden times. Like, we're Viking culture. But I think my favorite one was in Spider-Man: Homecoming, when he goes to pick his date up, only to find out that he's dating the villain's daughter. Like, that moment was so tense in the theater. Like, it was so good. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I have that one written down as one of my early thoughts for one of the best movie moments of the year, because I don't know how many people were, unless they knew going in, were anticipating that reveal behind the other side of the door that opens. So that was definitely a jaw-dropping moment. I can't agree more. Amanda?
My next schedule right now?
Yeah, that's how it's been going.
Shut up. Let's... you know what? Let's go to most cringeworthy moments. All right? I'm not...
You had this last year, I think, and there was definitely a lot of cringeworthiness in those picks.
Oh, Lord.
Turkey baster.
I wasn't going to say it, bro. I was not going to. Okay. All right, now you threw me off. All right, I got 4 here. And I think a couple of these have kind of already been, or maybe just one has already been touched on. And that is, my number 4 is the pie scene from A Ghost Story. So bad. So bad. It made me want to barf. I was like, I'm too full and I'm not even eating that pie. And it went on forever. And it got to the point where it was annoying and sick. Number 3, I've got Okja and just anything that they did to Okja after they, kidnapped her. It was just awful and I hated seeing it. And then number 2 is The Turn in A Cure for Wellness, specifically a moment between the father and the daughter. Was not okay with at all. And then my number 1 biggest, I don't even know if I want to say this. Did you look at my list?
No, but I have a feeling I know where it's going.
It's a scene with the baby in Mother. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. If you've seen it, you know. It's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in a movie. So there we go.
I'm going to jump in here because I have something that's similar in a way to what you're talking about here, just based off that last one. And I'm going to go with an award that I'm going to give. I'm going to call it, because there's a lot of trends that happen over the course of a movie year. So there's trends in all kinds of different ways and all kinds of different genres and whatnot. So my award is going to be for the trend that I do not need any more of in 2018. So a trend that I saw in movies in 2017 that I'm good with that being done for a while. And I'm going to say that trend that I would like to see end for at least a little while, give me a break for a little while, let me recoup some, sanity. I don't need to see any more child deaths in 2018 in films for a little while. I need a break. I need a hiatus from that because 2017 hit me one too many times with the child deaths. So I guess a little spoiler alert if you want not to be any of these films be ruined. I don't know how much it would be ruined. I think I'm more so doing you a favor. But ones that stick out to me, Amanda's just highlighted one of them in Mother. That was a grotesque way to see a child die. Killing of a Sacred Deer has a child die in there. And then maybe one of the worst ones, it's hard to be worse than the one in Mother, I guess, but Lady Macbeth has a sequence
I forgot about that bitch
in there that is not necessarily heartwarming. So, and there's probably other ones that's not just coming to the top of my mind, but I need a reprieve.
It comes at night as well.
It Comes at Night, yes, has one as well. So, I mean, you could not saying that you can't use this in movies. Like, I get it's might fit your story or what you're going for. I just need a break from it for a little while. Come back in 2019 and kill some more kids, but 2018 I need a break. So that's the trend that I would like to take a break for a little while. Dan?
This is what happens when you have what was your favorite movie from with Idris Elba with all the kids?
Yeah.
God, I can't handle that one either.
Beast of No Nation.
Yes,
yeah.
Beast of No Nation.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm
so
overboard with
I'll
that.
piggyback.
Go ahead.
I'll piggyback off of the best fathers, worst fathers idea, and I do an article for Geekcast Radio every so often called "Movies to Show My Son," where I pick different movies, usually classic films or films from that I've enjoyed growing up, and so I thought it would be interesting looking at the movies of 2017 and seeing which ones I could see including in a future article with that. And some of them that come to mind were Wonder this past year. I think it just looks like it's a really sweet story about a kid overcoming some pretty strong obstacles. Call Me by Your Name, specifically for the speech that's in that, and if you've seen the film, there's this really kind of a moving speech near the end with a father talking to his son, which I think is much more eloquent of something being said than I could ever say. Coco, it's just with this themes of family and everything that it touches upon, especially that ending. And lastly, the Disaster Artist, mostly just because I think it's a really good idea of showing like sometimes you can want something done, you kind of have to do it yourself, and even if you don't necessarily succeed the way you expect to, there's something to that. There can be beauty in that, and it's okay to be different in a way. I think there's a lot to be said for that film outside of the fact that it's about the worst movie ever made or what have you. So yeah, I feel like any of those would be a good launching point to get into much more regarding that. So,
and if you guys haven't checked out that blog series, I would highly recommend it, especially anybody that is expecting or has a little one. I think that's a really cool series that Dan has done over the course of the last year or so with movies that he would like to show his son. So if you haven't checked it out, go to the website geekcastradio.com and definitely find those articles, and if you find one, it'll link you to most of them if you click on Dan's name. So great stuff there. Matt, what else would you like to award for 2017?
So I did the best new character to a franchise, but I also have best superhero sidekick, which somehow doesn't line up at all on my list. And so these are specifically characters that play a sidekick role, and I guess they're all new to this past year. So I got 3 here. Valkyrie from Thor. I thought she was a great character, very interesting. I love how there's a lot of past there that you don't get, that they spare you at the beginning and then they slowly build towards. And then my next one would be Ned from Spider-Man. I thought he was hilarious. I don't need a Ned movie, I don't need a Ned side project, but he made that movie more wholesome, and I love it. And then my final one is Korg from Thor 3. Taika Waititi was amazing. I love him in things. I love the movies he's made that I've seen. So, that was a perfect mixture of both of those things.
Yeah, I agree. Those are some great characters, especially Korg and Ned. I really enjoyed them from those 2 films. Amanda, how many do you got left? You got 3 or 4 left?
Yeah.
All right, go for the next one.
Oh man, let's do a good one here.
Okay.
I want to do the most evil character.
Well, you just said you were going to do a good one.
This is a good one. I've got a chat full.
Evil characters.
Chat full evil characters. This one's already been mentioned by you, Kevin, and that's David from Alien Covenant, as played by Michael Fassbender. He is evil.
He was evil.
He did some evil things.
Yep, except for playing the flute, that wasn't evil.
That was kind of, maybe he's an evil flute player. Anyways, number 3 is Johnny Wilcox from Okja, as played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Despicable human being. Alright, and he was annoying. Number 2 is the Colonel from War for the Planet of the Apes, as played by Woody Harrelson.
Who was in every movie this year, by the way.
Every single movie.
Continue.
And number 1 is the Reverend from Brimstone, as played by Guy Pearce.
I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, you need to try to, Carter.
That movie is not worth anybody watching, though, so just take our word that Guy Pearce's character is pretty evil in that.
Pretty bad.
All right. Dan, why don't you go next?
All right, I'll go a completely different direction, and I'll just include my favorite documentaries that I've seen. I still have not seen a lot of the big ones that people talked about, Jane and LA 92, but I was able to catch up with a number of them. And I know some people include documentaries in their overall top 10. I like to keep them separate just because I feel like it gives me more room in my top 10 and an excuse to talk about more of them. So some of my favorites were Oklahoma City, which is a documentary that is all about the Oklahoma City bombing, but it's really encapsulates much more than that. It's really in depth. It gets into things like Waco. It really talks about like the rise of the far right from its early beginnings, and it's really like unfortunately very timely in a way with what it's covering. So it's just a well-made piece of investigating journalism that is maybe some dry for some. It's very clinical, but it does have some very emotional moments as well. Whose Streets, which is currently streaming on Hulu, it's basically about Black Lives Matter, and it's a lot of on the ground footage of things that happened. So you really get a really good idea of basically what was going on. This documentary, Gilbert, and many of you probably know Gilbert Gottfried, obviously the comedian, and it follows his life, and you really see what he's like. And it's a kind of especially considering today's idea of celebrity and how we know everything about everyone, it's kind of intriguing seeing this guy that has this personality that we know and love or know or aware of, and how different he is. And there's no like huge secret. Like the biggest and most damning thing about him is the fact that he hoards hotel soap, but it's just, I don't know, it's really affecting in that way. Step, which is a documentary about a Baltimore Step team, and so a lot of homegrown roots as living in Baltimore, and it's really inspirational about these girls, and it's the lives they're living, and as they use Step as a huge motivational tool. Casting John Bonet, which has maybe the creepiest scene I've seen all year, which it's this documentary about they're trying to make a John Bonet Ramsey movie, but really it's just talking to the actors and seeing why they would do this thing and like get into this role. And specifically, there's a scene of someone talking about getting into the mindset of playing a pedophile, and I'm like, it's just he was overly convincing. I'm like, you should probably arrest that guy. He's a little too good at this. It was really strange to watch. And for cat lovers, there's a documentary called Keddy, which it literally focuses on cats in Istanbul. I can never say that correctly, but it's just like how they incorporate it into their culture, and there's just all these different stray. It's like kind of an epidemic of stray cats.
But are they nice
area,
kitties?
but a lot of people actually love them. Yeah, a lot of people love them and appreciate them, and they're a lot of stores like have stuff out for them. Some people find them nuisance, but it's interesting. Just it gets you kind of a different look into a different culture. And lastly, Long Shot, which is really like a 40-minute documentary about a person who gets arrested and for a crime that they didn't commit, but it's like trying to figure out a way to prove that. And some unexpected people make an appearance, and he ends up going to this Dodger game, but he needs to prove that he went to the Dodger game. So they're trying to find ways to do that, and then it's kind of the story about how that ended up coming to be, and how like a really random act impacted that trial. So
interesting. All right, I know Amanda's already her eyes lit up when you said a documentary about cats.
Somebody already recommended I watch that, but I didn't know if one of the kitties were gonna die, and I can't handle that, so I didn't watch it.
It's not.
I tried to watch Born in China, and the freaking cat mom died in that, and I was a wreck. I was a mess. I couldn't handle it.
There's a website that, like, Does the Dog Die will tell you if cats die in the movie before you watch it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad that's a thing.
Or you could have just asked Dan.
Huh?
You could have just asked Dan.
I didn't know he watched it until now.
And I didn't know that website existed. That's interesting. Does it do dogs, cats, and just anything?
It's pretty much anything that might be a trigger warning. But they do a good job of not spoiling things if you don't want that.
Gotcha. Speaking of spoiling things, you might not want to listen to my next award if you haven't seen these films. So feel free to mute your record or listening device of whatever you're using, because I live in this day and age and I know what people use to listen to stuff. My next award would be the most impactful death in a movie. So most impactful character death in a film. So some of these might be spoilers, just as a forewarning. I don't know how I just randomly ended up with 5 with most of these. That was not planned. But I have 5. I would say one of them would be Tom Hardy's character in the film Dunkirk. I thought that was a pretty impactful death sequence, scene, etc. I am going to go, even though we didn't know much about the character, and I don't think anybody was necessarily sad about it, I think it's still impactful because it caused a whole lot of discussion and a whole lot of debate and a lot of hate from some people. But I would say Snoke in The Last Jedi. I don't think most people were prepared for that, so I think that was an impactful choice there. Let's go with Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy. His death and the funeral that preceded that. I thought that was a pretty impactful death sequence, especially in a big budget film. Another big budget film that had an impactful death for me would be one of the ones early on in the year that a lot of people were talking about. Let's go with Logan. Some death scenes in Logan, specifically maybe if you're thinking about Professor X, that were impactful from that film. But the most impactful one for me, and I already said his name once, so I probably shouldn't say it again, I guess, but I think it's mainly because of the amount of time we've spent with this character and how well we had gotten to know him over the course of 3 films. But definitely for me, the most impactful death of the year, character death, would have been Caesar in War for Planet of the Apes. I just thought that was something that was well handled and sad yet impactful for a variety of different ways. So those are my most impactful deaths of the year. Matt, do you have another award to give out for 2017?
Yeah, I still got 2 more.
Excellent.
So in 2017, every movie I saw was part of a franchise, I think. Like, whether big or small, like Ghost in the Shells had a couple of movies, a couple of TV shows. Like, every movie I think I saw last year was part of a franchise. And so I had to do an award that was the best addition to a franchise, the one that changed it the most or put it in a direction that I agree with the most. Which I guess more or less makes it the best movie, but not necessarily. And forgive me if this is too obvious, but I got to give it to The Last Jedi, because that movie, it didn't care about your expectations. It didn't care about what you wanted to know. It was like, hey, this isn't the Star Wars you're expecting, and they told us that right in the trailer. And they veered off into a whole new crazy world, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time, which is a weird thing to say about a franchise that I've loved my whole life. The way it's changed things, I think it's done more for that franchise than any of the other movies have done for their franchise for that year.
Yeah, I just cannot wrap my head around the just sheer amount of stupidity that has come from people that are upset about that film. I don't want to get into it and go down that rabbit hole, but the petitions and the protests and the this, that, and the other are just absolutely insane to me. So it's disturbing, some of the reaction that film got. That's all I'll say about it. But I agree. I think it did do some interesting things and some positive things for keeping that franchise fresh and interesting, and not making it necessarily something stale, which is something that could definitely have happened with a franchise that's going to release a film every single year. So, Amanda, you are up next in the hot seat. What do you got?
I'm going to do most annoying character.
I was not in a film, so it can't be me.
This time.
All right.
Number 3 is Ladybird from Ladybird, as played by Saoirse Ronan.
Really?
It's fucking annoying. Yeah, super annoying. And then number 2, Taylor Sloan from Ingrid Goes West, as played by Elizabeth Olsen. Stupid. Hate you. And number 1 is Ingrid Thorburn. There we go. From Ingrid Goes West, as played by Aubrey Plaza.
So you just don't like women.
Don't like they were all.
You don't like anybody that's playing a teenage girl or
all
younger?
my most evil characters were dudes.
Okay.
So
the young girls are annoying. The dudes are evil.
I guess, man. I didn't make these movies.
True.
So stop hating on me.
I'm not hating.
I'm just calling it like I see it.
I was just observing.
Calling it like I see it, sir.
All right, so your most annoying characters of the year. Dan, what do you have up next?
I want to go with a category called movies I'm still not sure about, and there are movies where I'm like, I still don't know where I fall on them. Like, there's aspects that I'm just still questioning for one reason or another, and I'll start with the movie we talked about that the host brought up already, and that's Mother. There are pieces of that, or a good chunk of that, I find just massively impressive, and there are sequences that utterly disturb and anger me, but what I'm not sure about, I'm like, if that's necessarily a bad thing. I think there could be something purposeful to that. Like, movies could do a lot of different things. So it's hard to. I still don't know where I fall on that spectrum. And I'm like, there's part of me that's like, man, I'll never forget that, and there's part of me that's like, I want to forget that. So, so it's conflicting. Along the same lines is The Ornithologist, which is not nearly, I think, as anger-inducing as The Mother can be, but has very many similar themes. It's very theology and often in how it relates to nature and even paganism is utilized in that movie. But there's I'm at a film standpoint, I was pretty impressed by it, but within the narrative, I felt like it was kind of pretentious. And I hate the word pretentious, but I felt like, I don't know, it was as its impact was there for what I was looking for. But another one I talked about already is A Ghost Story. Like I mentioned, I feel like I haven't rewatched it, and I really want to. I also saw it after watching a movie that I loved and adored, and will probably end up in my top 10. And so I'm wondering if it was just like a bad idea to watch another movie after that. So maybe if I watch it in clear headspace, I'll enjoy it more in the second time. So I'm still putting that in this category. And lastly is Three Billboards, which is there's probably one of the most polarizing movies of 2017. There's people who have it in their top 10 who it just won the Golden Globe, and there's people who hate and despise it. And like I kind of see both realms of that. I think I love the performances and the characters, but I can understand where some of the people are coming from. So I don't really fall on one side of the fence or the other, which maybe could bother some people. But like I don't think I hate it, but I also didn't love it. But I'm just conflicted because I think I walked away more positive, but I can see many of the points that people are making that make it problematic. But I don't know if it really I don't know. I think it depends on the viewing of the movie. And I think some people are taking it obviously very differently. So I just don't know where I fall at this moment in time. But I think mostly on the positive. But still, it's when I don't know where I stand, which is odd. But I think it tends to happen more often than not. And I think sometimes with rewatching or digging deeper, you can kind of fall in line in one end or the other. So
I think another thing that's interesting, because I do agree with what you're saying there, a lot of times it is how a specific person interprets a film, whether it be a character decision or a plot pointer or different things like that. Like everybody comes with a different set of baggage and may cause them to interpret different things different ways. So I think, like you said, number one, rewatching things. Number two, digging into things or hearing other people kind of explain why they either interpreted this way or interpreted that way, whether it be positive or negative. With that one, I think something that kind of gave me a little bit of more clarity on that one was listening to the way that Adam Kempenard kind of described his interpretation of Three Billboards on Film Spotting, that kind of helped me put some of the thoughts that I had into the right place, because It is, especially for some of those films. It definitely depends on how you interpret it, and it could almost make its own list. You could almost have like the most polarizing films of 2017, and like you said, Three Billboards would definitely be on there. Mother might be on there. There's definitely been Last Jedi, I guess, could be on there, but there's definitely been a lot of films that have either had, top 10 or bottom 10 type of things going on. So it's definitely very interesting. I'm gonna go next. I have one that let's just do best cameo. I'll do best cameo. Again, this could be spoilers, so I apologize for that. But best cameos, I just have some honorable mentions here. I guess I kind of enjoyed Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom showing up in Pirates of the Caribbean. Whether you knew that or not, I just thought it was somewhat of a nice touch. How about Sam Neill, Matt Damon, Luke Hemsworth, a little cameo from Thor that was unexpected, to say the least. And then if you stuck around for, I guess, the end credit scenes, I thought it was a cool little way to kind of get a cameo or a sneak peek look at Deathstroke in the Justice League film. But there's really only one cameo that could win this award, and this is the most spoiler-ific part of this. So please, if you have not seen Split, do not listen to the next 10 or 15 seconds. I know that came out a long time ago, but you got to give it to Bruce Willis in Split. That one had everybody's jaw dropping and kind of a lot of conversations that came out from that. So those are my best cameos of 2017. Amanda, what do you got left?
Can I?
Matt?
Oh, go ahead. Hold
Can I
on.
jump in?
Yeah, let Dan jump in.
I also had a cameo. Yeah, I'll just add one in. I don't want to. It's a huge spoiler, so I'll just say one of the documentaries that I listed, Larry David shows up, and it's a very pleasant surprise, and he's as Larry David can be. So I'll just leave it as that.
Nice. Was that your only one, Dan?
And the other one was Matt Damon in Thor, and then there's another one in Last Jedi with Yoda that was unexpected, and I really
I can't believe I forgot
appreciate it.
that. I can't believe
Seriously,
I forgot
bro.
Yoda. Come on, that would have been easily that would probably be number 2 for me. Amanda, what were you going with next?
Man, how many more of these should I be doing?
Oh, I got 2 or 3 left. I think Matt has 1 left. So whatever you got time for, go for it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with biggest tearjerker moments,
Woo.
and there's gonna be some spoilers in this too.
All right.
I'd say I've got 4. Number 4, I've got Professor X's death in Logan. Number 3, I've got Logan's death in Logan. Number 2, Henry's death in the Book of Henry. And number 1, I've got the grieving mother scene from Wind River.
Oh yeah, good one.
Hard watch.
Yeah. Whew, a lot of death and sadness.
I wanted it to not end on that note. So.
All right, Dan, what do you got next?
I guess I'll keep that going with best bittersweet ending, and it's Lucky, as specifically Harry D. Stanton, and how that ends. I won't give anything away because I don't know who's seen it, but it's very bittersweet considering he also passed away in real life. So it's I think, but also it's very sad in a way as well. So, but yeah.
All right. Just keeping the sad going, let me change it a little bit. Let me try to get a little more happy, and we'll do that by doing my biggest laugh out loud moment. I'm stealing that one from you. You used it last year, Amanda, and I don't think it's any secret, but I'm just picking one, and it's the moment of the year that I laughed the loudest in the theater, which, if you knew me or if you ever went to a movie with me, I generally don't laugh in theaters, period, but I could not help it on this one, so let's just go with
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Exactly. So, I don't know why, but that just hit the perfect chord with me. The timing was perfect, and I still, every time somebody says that, I smile or laugh. So, I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, is my laugh out loud moment of 2017. Amanda, right back to you.
I'm gonna jump off that and go with my best moments.
Okay.
Got 3. The third one is when Arthur pulls sword from stone, which is also his father.
All right.
I thought that the way they set up
I forgot about that.
what the stone is made out of was super awesome, and I liked the physical reaction to the world around him while he was pulling that from the stone. I think it was pretty cool. And number 2 is Mary Poppins, y'all. It's the best. And number 1, I've got the ending to The Mountain Between Us. I think how that ended and the exact precise moment that the image cut off was superb.
All right, I like it. Dan, let's go right back to you.
Okay, I'm going to just do two because they're really rather quick. This one is called just Oh So Pretty. Basically, just movies that are gorgeous to look at, and like if there was ever a reason I'd buy like a 4K TV and player, this would be probably the reason why. And they're pretty obvious, but the anime film Your Name, which is just a gorgeous piece of art, and just I couldn't imagine just the time and effort that went in to make that. Similar with Blade Runner 2049. Roger Deakins, just the art direction, everything from that movie is just fantastic. And then John Wick Chapter 2. A lot of people talk about the action sequences, and definitely so, but just as a piece of art, like that is a gorgeous looking movie. It kind of gets lost in it, but it has a lot of great style. And then the other one real quick is just character I identified with the most, and that is actually Ray Romano in The Big Sick, specifically for the line like, the internet hates everything. They even hated Forrest Gump. I'm like, that is so true. It's just like that resonated with me almost more than any other line. It's like I feel like I'm becoming that guy more and more. It's like, yeah, I'm just like everyone hates everything. Like why do I even bother? So I don't know. It's just like I feel like there's just something about like the ignorance is bliss, and sometimes not knowing how much, like we talked about how a movie like this, The Last Jedi can be so super polarizing, and you have people doing stupid petitions and whatnot. It's like, you know what? If I didn't know that, it probably would just be so much better at times. So I just feel like I identified with him in that moment very much.
Absolutely. I enjoyed that moment too, and a good movie overall. Matt, what's your last award?
All right, the last one I got is the movie I'm most excited for the sequel of. Like I said, every movie I saw this year was part of like a franchise or something larger like that. And so if I could only choose one and only get a sequel to one movie, from everything from 2017, legitimately without hesitation, it would absolutely be Murder on the Orient Express. Like I love what they did with that classic story. I loved the actor that they got to play Poirot. I would love to see a dozen more movies from him. Like, and if that one got a sequel, I'd be so happy.
There's definitely a lot of material to go off of. Would you have a specific story that you know of that you would like them to do?
No, I live in a house with like every Poirot book and all of the various like BBC series. But actually, this was my first the first time I've ever sat down and watched something beginning to end. I'm usually walking in and out of rooms where things are being watched. So this is my first true experience, honestly.
I really did like who they got to play the detective. I think that
Kenneth Branagh?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of the highlights of that film. I will go next. I already did my trend that I don't need to see continued in 2018. I also had a trend that I would like to see continued in 2018 if they could somehow pull it off. So, and I just kind of a silly thing, but a weird thing. I don't know. Like, did they all get together and decide that they were going to do this? And I would love in 2018 if we got to see another classic musician that gets so many features in film, because John Denver was all over the place in 2017, and I'm not hating it. He literally had Annie's Song and Take Me Home Country Roads featured in 5 different films in 2017. So we had Logan Lucky, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, Free Fire, Alien Covenant, and Okja all featured one of those 2 songs. So I thought that was cool. It was like this like little hidden tie-in to a bunch of 2017 movies. So I'm already ready to nominate people for 2018 or 2019 to do. Like, we could do, let's see, Neil Diamond. We could do Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan. I don't care who it is. Let's just keep doing this every year. Let's pick an artist and like just somehow find a way to get it in every movie. I don't know. I enjoyed that. I don't know if everybody else hated that or not, but it was fun for me. Amanda, what do you got?
These are movies that I wanted more from. Not necessarily negative, not necessarily positive, but something I needed a little bit more from. Number 4 is the Justice League. I just wanted more interactions between all of them. Like, I didn't feel like I got enough. Like, I want more. I'm excited to see more of this team. Number 3 is It. It made me super excited to see the next chapter that's coming. Like, I wanted more. I didn't want it to end. I wanted to see the, entirety of, them as kids and now them as adults too. I didn't want to have to wait. Number 2 is Atomic Blonde. I wanted more of her story. Like, I thought that she was a really interesting character, and I needed a little bit more. And number 1 is Bright. I needed more explanation. I needed to see this world a little bit more. I wanted to know what the fuck happened with the orcs. I needed this. I needed a little bit more backstory than what I got.
Probably better served if it would have been like an actual series.
And I thought it was going to be a TV series. Dumb me. But I think it would have really benefited from that. But can you really pay Joel Edgerton and Will Smith to be in a TV series, a miniseries? I don't know. Can you?
I don't know. Not sure. All right, Dan, you got another one that you'd like to go to?
Sure. I can do what I'm calling just wait and knuckle moments. It's like very, what if, somewhat action sequences, but I feel like the most tense moments of 2017. One of them was already talked about, Spider-Man Homecoming, the car ride, the Homecoming. That was, again, part of that being so unexpected. It ended up being so affecting of a scene. Killing of a sacred deer. I'll just say the ring around Rosie, or whatever you want to call it, at the very end.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was not. I was not anticipating that type of description for that moment.
I mean, that Ring Around the Rosie is pretty. The meaning of that song is pretty deep,
true.
Dark. So,
very true.
Personal Shopper. The sequence on the train with the text messages. Like, I was, that kind of helped me fall in love with that movie. Just how effective that was. Get Out in the Sunken Place. Specifically the ending, or near the end when it gets in full effect. That I thought was really affecting. Mudbound, there's a scene in that where a character is forced to make a choice for another character that was very tense, I thought. It Comes at Night, the ending, once it starts, like that last 15 minutes or so. The French horror film Raw, and I'll just say the waxing sequence, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but everything that takes place after that was just intense, and probably the most intense. Well, before I get to that, we talked about it, the opening with Georgie. That was hard to watch in a good way. But probably the most tense moment, or it was really half the movie, it felt like, was Detroit in the hotel sequence. Like that, I don't know, it was like 40 minutes of the police and the interrogation. Like, it just was unrelenting. And was really impactful. That I felt like, if I was, that within itself, I thought was, you could probably just use that as a short film, and you arguably make Detroit a better movie. I don't know, but I don't know. So yeah, there's probably more too, but those are the ones that kind of came to my mind as I.
No, those are some great picks.
I made this.
I definitely remember each one of those moments from the ones that you mentioned that I've seen, and they definitely were very tense moments. Some of them I had almost forgotten because they've been so long since I've seen the film, but those were definitely tense moments. And some of the better moments, too, of films in 2017. I just have one left, so I will go with it. I'm actually afraid to actually do this one now because of everything I've heard over the course of the last hour or so. Amanda may not speak to me after my last award, but this one has nothing to do whether I like a film or don't like a film. It's just the films that I thought best represented 2017. So films that I just thought best represented where we are in the world and kind of what lives are like for people these days. So I just have 3 picks that I threw out there, and I'm sure somebody that's seen more movies or better attuned to things might be able to come up with some better selections. But the 3 that I thought were the most 2017 were Personal Shopper, Ingrid Goes West, and Lady Bird. So I just thought...
Wait, so you need to explain this to me. What do you mean? So represents film in 2017?
No, just represents the world in 2000. Like if you were like in, I don't know...
Personal Shopper?
Yeah. with all the communication back and forth and the texting and some of that type of stuff and the isolation, I just thought like if you're like taking an alien race or taking someone from like 50 years in the future or whatever and trying to say like which film that came out in 2017 also best represents what life was like in
No, they're
2017.
gonna think that we just put on other people's clothes and masturbate in their bed, and then believe in ghosts. That's what.
Possibly, I don't know.
Like, who doesn't do all of those things?
Dan, you've seen a lot of films, especially recently. I mean, what do you think? Do those three represent 2017, or is there another film that you would probably throw in there?
There is another film, and it's probably my favorite film of the year, so
Okay,
probably we'll talk about
I won't
it
ask you to name that one.
next week.
So I don't know. I just think those three do a decent job, regardless of if you like them or don't like them. I think they represent the year.
Ingrid West, I agree with.
Okay.
What was your other one?
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird's not now, though.
No, but just kind of that whole idea of I guess that one's more of a timeless one, maybe. So that maybe that one doesn't fit. You might be right on that one.
Let me break your shit down.
All right, I like it. So you agree with Ingrid Goes West?
Yes.
All right, that's good enough for me.
What you should have done is watch Black Mirror, because that really says a lot about society.
And there are some films that I haven't seen yet, like that we'll talk about next week, that are on my list of shame, I guess, for the year. Amanda, I know you have at least one left. So
do I want to do this one though? I
don't know.
ranked comic book films, the top 6.
Are any of them going to be in your top 10?
Most likely.
Okay, let's skip that then.
Okay.
So keep the suspense going. Did anybody have an award that they didn't get a chance to go through that they want to talk real quick at the end about? Dan, do you have anything left on your list?
I'll just do this one real quick. It's just movies that are better than they should be, and basically films that I felt like would not be as good as they were. Colossal, I thought it'd be kind of I thought it'd be good, kind of funny film, but it ended up being actually somewhat deep and actually has a lot to say, and especially on things like abuse and things of that nature. I was really surprised by that. Cars 3, I'm not saying it's a great film, but I like the first Cars well enough, and I thought that Cars 3, like, it has its problems, but at the heart of it very much is like a love letter to Paul Newman, who's like my all-time favorite actor, so I appreciated that aspect of it, so I thought that ended up being much better than it could have been. Girls Trip, which takes the formula that we've seen before a lot, but it just gets really 4 strong actresses who are funny and lets it be funny. It has actually something to say too that's I think more poignant than most comedies. Patty Cakes, which is this movie about a white rapper, Patty Cake. She lives in New Jersey and she's kind of lower class. This could be within the 2017 aspect of it, in the way she's trying to be this big rapper, but she's having a lot of struggles, and it felt like a ripoff of like 8 Mile or something like that, but it ended up being much better. And I have no street cred, surprisingly enough, but I thought the music was really good too. So, and lastly for that is Stronger, with Jake Gyllenhaal, and I thought it'd be a really, he's about this guy who was hurt in the Boston Marathon bombing. I thought it'd be super melodramatic, or hero worship or something like that, and ended up being a lot more than that. And Gyllenhaal is really good as usual, not counting something like Okja, which he was not very good in, but he was much better and Stronger, and that ended up being, I think, a deeper film than I expected it to be. So
agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so those are our 2017 movie awards. If you like that type of stuff, like Dan mentioned earlier, please go to the website in the coming weeks and keep an eye out for our movie award blogs that we talked about, because we'll definitely have a series of those going out. But we also have one more episode to go as far as wrapping up 2017. We've pushed it as far as we can. We've delayed as long as possible. We have very limited time to catch up with any more movies before it is time to reveal our top 10 films of 2017. And because the movie theaters know that, they decided to just like release every film that they haven't, like just now. So Amanda and I need to leave so we can go to the theater. We have like 17 movies we got to watch this week. But next time that we give you guys an episode, it is our top 10 films of 2017. Just real quick, Dan, are you ready for it? Are you doing any more cramming, or is your list solid?
I think it's still really solid, but I think I have a couple I want to try to hopefully catch. But I don't think I'm gonna get watch Phantom Thread before next week. But there's a few that I'm hoping to either catch on Netflix or so. But I don't see much movement happening. But it's been a good year. So
Yeah. So we'll do our last minute cramming. We'll try to get all that ready for you guys next week. And there will be some films that obviously are on our list of shame for the year that we didn't quite get to, our biggest regrets, so to speak. But regardless, we'll highlight our favorite films of 2017. Then after that, like we said last week, we will shift our attention to 2018 with our box office predictions and our most anticipated films. So a lot of fun episodes coming up from the Cinema Geeks here in the recent episodes and coming weeks here. So that does it for us for this week. Tune in next time for another chance to listen to more from the Cinema Geeks.